The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Football fans, the time is now.
Give me a hell yeah!
For the football show you never knew you wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Broken Helmet.
Coming to you live on tape on this Sunday, October 26th, 2025. It is the best football show you have never heard of. It is the Broken Helmet. Rich Eggy here behind the wheel. And to get in touch with the show, you can reach us at brokenhelmetshow@gmail.com or at brokenhelmetpod on X. So it has been, a pretty meh week, if you want to say that. Obviously had to recover from the Giant loss from last Sunday. Not everybody, but at least us Giant fans. And then as the week went on, it was just kind of like, had better weeks. Found out middle of the week that Dunkin' Donuts finally kicked in with that stupid reward program that they updated. Whereas I said this on a show earlier in the year, it might have been week 1 or 2, but I can't even tell you how many points in the Dunkin's reward app. Tens of thousands. I don't know. I just never knew what I was going to do with them. I joked on the show I'd give them away to my kids and my will. And then all of a sudden, Dunkin' Donuts decides, that's not going to happen. What actually is going to happen is we're going to put all of these points on expirations, and we're going to do so retroactively. So all of a sudden this week, on Tuesday, I think it was, I go into my app at Dunkin' Donuts to go get myself a coffee, and all of a sudden I see I've got, I don't think, like 15 or 16,000 points that I got to get rid of by October 31st. So like 10 days. So all this week, I've just been treating everybody to Dunkin' Donuts. What do you guys want? What do you want? Nothing I can do. I guess I can convert the points, and that gives another month of expiration onto them. But, I mean, come on. Just more corporate shenanigans. Because how do you do that? How do you let people accumulate? And I mean, my tens of thousands probably pale in comparison to somebody who like routinely uses this, or, little mom and pop companies that somebody there is the point person and they all pitch in and split up the rewards and always looking at it. And then all of a sudden this comes through and you're given till October 31st to blast away X amount of points. And there's 2 different buckets for the points. They made it so convoluted. So points that you earned after a certain date get this expiration, and points that you earned before that get a different expiration. And it just, Duncan, why are you making life complicated? Why? Just don't change horses in midstream. Don't do it. Leave it the way that it is. Let me just have my tens of thousands of points to give to my kids when I pass. When it's my time and I croak, let me pass on those points. Let me give the kids something. Give them something. And then the week continued on this like meh type of week where I turn on the news and Sid Rosenberg is everywhere. And I'm like, what? And oddly enough, it was because he had Cuomo on his 770 WABC show, and then they made a Mandami comment and about him cheering if there was ever 9/11, and that hit the news cycle, and it was everywhere. And I was just like, this just confirms that we're living in a simulation, because why do I have to hear this fucking guy's name forever? I moved back to Jersey. This guy was more than happy trying to take over the South Florida sports airwaves. Never did it. Failed miserably. And somehow snakes his way all the way back up to here to buddy up with his pal Bernie. And then Bernie passes away from illness, and then Sid gets basically the entire platform. And here he is, just in the airways. Doesn't matter to anybody else. For me, it's just a shot in the gut, because I was his producer for 2 years, stayed in touch with him for probably another 5, up until 2010. And there was an event that happened. I might even put it into a podcast. I think I've actually said in the past that I do a podcast on it, but once you get such garbage out of your life, you don't want to bring it back in, which is why it just drives me nuts to see this fucking guy, or hear him on the radio and see his name being brought up. Oh, he hit CNN. And I was just laughing because I went to Twitter and I was like, for those of you that don't know Sid, right? And he is every bit the POS that people have said throughout time, right? Going all the way back to his WFAN days, even before that, to the sports guys back there. I mean, he's got an awful reputation. And the only people that actually like him are the people that just don't know him, right? Or that can utilize him for, whatever radio plugs that they need, right? Then all of a sudden, Sid's their best friend. But I can confirm that he is just 100% garbage. And so I see the post, and for whatever reason, like moth to a flame, right? Psst, I'm like, oh no, I gotta tweet this. And I said something. It was the post of Mondami where he referenced the Cuomo radio spot that he had on Sid's. And so I wrote, for those of you that don't know Sid, he is in a car. He is in his car right now in tears, like a gigantic pool of them. Just, I did it. I did it. Fuck, I swear to God. He shed a tear when Mondami posted that. And he probably continued to cry as Megyn Kelly reposted it. And then his name got dropped on CNN. I mean, trust me. I did it, Dad. Anyway, so then I was just sitting there in a simulation. And I post these things. And I posted another thing that said, like, me, on Twitter. And then all of a sudden, I stopped seeing his posts because I'd followed him because I'm like, oh, I got to follow this guy now, And I couldn't. I'd originally been blocked by him years and years back, and I guess his old account got like snaked, and he had to create a new one. So I was not blocked anymore. And so I'm following. All of a sudden, the feed stops. Man, come on, Sid is not taking his foot off the gas on this one. No way. This guy has been probably tweeting this, 24, 48 hours. He hasn't stopped. He's probably up at night, wife sleeping. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I am here for New York City. I am here for New York City. I am the savior. And sure enough, then I went and I searched it, and there's his, profile, and I went into it, and I said, oh, I see the grayed out area X on the bottom. I said, didn't take long. Rich, you have been blocked. My second successful blocking. The first one, which I've said, is Mina Kimes, which was glorious. Only because I knew the tweet that I fired off was going to get me blocked. Because I knew that she read her tweets. And it was a picture of Sophie Rain making more money than Jason Tatum. And I said, this is Mina Kimes' career in one tweet. And she did not like that. And even though she didn't know me from a hole in the wall, because who the hell am I? There's like 5 people listening to the show. Thereby blocked me. But sure enough, I started posting. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Sid doesn't care. Maybe Sid doesn't read his tweets. What? Sid doesn't read his tweets? No, he definitely reads his tweets. He reads his tweets as he's tweeting. He's got a laptop over there, and he's tweeting on his phone here. What'd they say about me? I am the savior. What did he say about me? I am the savior. So anyway, like I said, crazy week. I live in a simulation, and that's my boring story for the next 10 minutes. Again, maybe I'll do the Sid story. But man, it was like 15 years ago, and really try not to think about it all that much, unless you live in New York, the New York tri-state area, and then you're forced to hear this shit anyway because it's around. I wish I just didn't like talk radio, right? Because if I didn't like talk radio, I never would hear it. But unfortunately, I do like talk radio, and now, which is basically podcasting. Who had radio? GM just took radios out of the cars. I mean, you like radio? Well,
you'll get nothing and like it.
If you drive a GM starting 2028, or no, Teslas. GM's completely different. I screwed that one up. Stop. Rewind. Teslas are removing radios from their cars altogether. They're going to be gone. So, like I said, if you like the radio in a Tesla, well,
You'll get nothing and like it.
GMs are removing Apple CarPlay and Android Car, whatever their app is, starting in 2028. So if you have an iPhone and you thoroughly enjoy using Apple CarPlay, you will not be able to do so anymore in a GM car from 2028 on, because they are going to be removing it and they're going to put in, I guess, some proprietary Google interface into their vehicles. And from what I read, I think all the other car companies are doing something similar. I think Ford and Benz, they're all coming out with their own software, because one would imagine that this will be the onset of subscription services that you have been hearing about forever. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they've been talking previously, probably over the past 5 years, and I think they might do this actually in Germany, but I'm not sure. But BMW, I think, and Mercedes-Benz were making all of their features subscription-based per month. So every car would come with seat heaters, but they wouldn't be available unless you paid the subscription, right? Because, of course, these car companies, they need more money. And because the iPhone allowed all these stupid apps to come up with this stupid $1 a month and $2 a month, but we live in a goddamn subscription society. Now, all these other companies are thinking the same shit, right? It's everywhere. And you'll have to pardon all the beeps and bloops in the background as my wife is doing laundry as I'm doing my show in the basement. Like I said, I'm in the basement. So, like, heated steering wheel, heated seats, remote start. Ultimately, it'll all be just subscription. That's the thought process behind that. So, but I was talking about radio, and Tesla is the one that gets rid of the radio. So maybe I should buy a Tesla. That way I'm not forced to listen to talk radio, and I can just pick and choose what I want to bludgeon myself with. In which case, I probably still would end up doing that. I'd probably go to the Odyssey app, or whatever the hell they are. I don't know. Sirius XM seems to be my content of choice in the car. I do like their service. I like all this stuff. Anyway, all right, we're 15 minutes in. I bored everybody enough. Let's go into the games here. Now, this has been kind of a nutty week because I tried to get together with Chris. Chris once again screwed me, so no luck there. So I'm going to be I'm boring the hell out of you with a solo show. And on top of that, I have changed my bets and my picks probably 12 times over the course of the week. Because this week, out of nowhere, the book said, you know what? We're done with this. We're going one way and one way only with these spreads, and that is 7 or more. What? 7, 6.5, 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 2.5, 4.5, 14.5, 3, 11. It's like, holy shit. On top of there being 6 teams out for bye, they had all of these big spreads, which was like crazy. When you get up to the straight 7-point spreads, and more so in 2 of these games, it limits at least my betting approach, because regardless of whether or not the line is justified, there's just something difficult to get your hands around, like a 7-point spread, and been like, yeah, I got those. I got them for 7 points. Now, 7 points is one score. It's one score. It's actually not. If you're just doing it by one, and let's say field goals are 0.5, you're talking about one score more, or one score and a field goal. It's actually not a lot. But the NFL is usually pretty even keel, right, from team to team. You really don't see monster drop-offs, with the exception of shitbox teams per, the Titans this year. I can't believe the Commanders are 11.5 points. But, Dolphins, etc. I mean, just to see so many 7-point spreads kind of threw everything off for me. So, and then I listened to a ton of content this week. I'd been out of the habit of listening to a lot of the shows, and I got back into it this week, and then listening to everybody's opinion on these on these games, I'm like, oh, I'm a square pegs, square. Remember square pegs? I think it was, what was the name? Horseface from Sex and the City. Her name is Sarah Jessica Parker. I think she was in Square Pegs. Used to be in syndication when I was a kid. Anyway, I just thought of myself as a square on all of these. But I don't know. So I changed left and right, and we'll just get into it here, and we'll go down, rip through all of the picks. I'll give you my bets. I don't have anything for my brother, so he's just going to take a week off, and then we will get out of Dodge. So without further ado, as I say, let's go. Bills Panthers. This game in Carolina. 46.5 is the over-under. The Bills are favored by 7.5. Sharps are in on the Panthers. Everybody else is in on the Bills. 77% of the tickets, 82% of the money pool. The lines that I pulled from FanDuel, and the betting stats is from the Action Network app. I always put that right down there on the bottom of the screen there, so you can always follow along in case I forget to say it. Because I usually should say it right before we jump into everything, but I don't because I'm not good. So I went with the Bills here. Again, the sharp in me says the Panthers at home, probably can run the ball on the Bills a little bit because the Bills defense isn't great. And thereby they probably could keep this within one score. And then I thought to myself, it's Andy fucking Dalton, right? It's not even Bryce Young. So what are you doing? Don't overthink it. It's the Bills, right? A lot of these games, this is another, sidebar. So we will hop off topic for a second. I was going to talk to my brother about it. I'll bring it up with him next time I get him on, if I ever get him on again, is the fact that people have been talking, and I've heard this conversation more or less recently, that the spreads don't matter. That these teams win, and when they win, it usually doesn't have a spread impact if you were betting. Meaning that if it's 3 points, they win by 10 or by 7. Like the spread just doesn't come into play. Or the favorite loses, they just lose outright, right? It's not even, it's like they lose by, field goal 7 and it's not even close. And I've been tracking it the past couple of weeks, and sure as hell, it's pretty true. It is pretty true. Go back yourself if you want and look at the results and say to yourself, all right, if this game came down to be, let's say, within 3 points, we'll count that as good. If it's not 3 points, then forget about it. And my lovely wife has come down to get her sweatshirt for her big Bergen County championship game as the Northern Highlanders. Yes, it's a double, a repeat of Highlands there. Go on to take on the Ramsey Rams. But the Ramsey Rams that's a double, right? Ramsey Rams. Yeah, it's Ram Highlands Highlanders. So good luck there, honey. I'll watch you on TV. YouTube TV for anybody that wants to follow along. Search Northern Highlands versus Ramsey Rams. I think it's Big State Sports or something like that. It's a Jersey-based high school. Anyway, they're going to win. I know it. But going back to the spreads, last week, Green Bay, Arizona. It was the only game where the spread really came into play because the Packers were favored by 7. They ended up winning by 4. The week before that, spreads matter. Chargers at Miami, Arizona, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. If you wanted to throw one in there, maybe Chicago, Washington. But those are either 3 or 4 games on top of 15. Week before that, spreads matter. Tampa Bay at Seattle, Detroit at Cincinnati, and then if you wanted to throw it in there, Kansas City at Jacksonville. That was 2 or 3 games of 14. So in other words, spreads usually don't come into it. Like you pick the team and you're good or you're not. You're not usually there sweating a spread. Although if you're a gambler, you watch the games, that doesn't really play out like that because, again, 3-point spread covered by 7, which is a blocked field goal return for a touchdown that shows up as a 7-point win, is probably a little bit closer, right? But that said, I ended up going Bills. I said, don't overthink it here. Go Bills, better team. It's Andy Dalton. It's Andy Dalton. I've spent way too much time talking about this game, so we're off. So I give me the Bills in the first game. Bengals hosting the Jets. Bengals favored by 6.5. 44.5 is the over-under. This game is a trifecta game. Everybody loves the Bengals. I'll take the Bengals too. I've heard a lot of talk about the Jets this week, how this might be the spot for them. They're going with Justin Fields after Woody Johnson threw him under the bus. Does that motivate Fields? I don't know. The Bengals defense is terrible. Their offense is functional. They had a big last week because all Flacco did was just target Higgins and specifically Chase all game long. I imagine that's what they're going to do going forward. 6.5 is a lot of points for the Bengals. A not good Bengals team. But the Jets are even not gooder, right? So let's go with the Bengals. And I meant to say not good. Bengals here and the 6.5. Again, pretty heavy. It's 77% of the tickets and 79% of the money. I don't like the trifecta thing because the trifectas over the course of the year have not been great, but so be it. I'm going Bengals. No, why? You're gonna. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for going with the Bengals there. I like the pick too. That's what I meant to hit. Ravens hosting the Bears. This game, what a clusterfuck this was. So the Ravens basically tell everybody and their brother that Lamar's playing. And then on Saturday, they bench him and they say, oh, we were just kidding. He was limited in practice. He wasn't a full participant or whatever it was. And he was running scout team. And we were not lying. We just weren't telling the whole truth, I guess. I don't know. And so all of a sudden, I wake up and I look and I done the prep sheet. And I look back because I was trying to get this in yesterday afternoon when I figured out my brother just wasn't going to call. And all of a sudden, the fucking number changed. And it went from -7. And Chicago's Bear was my best pick originally at -7, even though they have no secondary. And it probably was a terrible best bet, but it was just, 7 points to the Ravens, who are just getting people back. And even before they got people back, they weren't playing that good. And then all of a sudden it went from 7 to 3.5. Then it went to 2.5. Then it went to 1.5. And now it's, 2.5 is what it is right now. Of course, Lamar not playing for the Ravens. 49.5 is the over under. The sharps and the tickets are on the Bears. The money is on the Ravens. At 2.5, I don't know what to do with this game. This is a game now I wouldn't touch. I had the Bears. I had to readjust things because I had the Bears in certain bets, and then I took them out. And so now I'm just not touching this game, but give me the Bears as my pick. Patriots, Browns, this game in New England. Patriots 7-point favorites over Cleveland. 40.5 is the over under. Trifecta game. Everybody in on the Patriots. Not a ton. Weakest with the money pool is it's only in the 50s there for the Patriots. So New England at home. I like it. I don't like the 7 points, but the Browns on the road aren't nearly as good as they are at home. And I don't like Dylan Gabriel in this spot. So even though the sharp in me for some reason wants to say Browns and the square screams Patriots, and then the square in my head is like, or the sharp in my head is like, no. The right side is the Patriots. So I'm just spinning around like a top. I don't know what to do. And so I end up just taking the Patriots here and the 7. Texans versus the 49ers. 41.5 is the over-under. Texans favored by 1.5. It was 2.5. I think it's 1.5. Check your local sports book. Look, I originally, beginning of the week, went with the 49ers. And I kind of like them to win outright. Currently, right now, the sharps are on the Texans. The tickets and the money are in the 80s, and they are both with San Fran. So that's where I originally leaned. And then I listened to content all week. And now I'm thoroughly set with the Texans being the better side here. So much so that in my rotating best bets of the week, this has now become my best bet. So give me the Texans as my best bet here. With that 1.5 and 2.5, whatever it might be. For the record, just so that we get it right, we'll just go to confirm because I think the last I checked it was 2.5. And if it's going to be my best bet, I might as well give the correct spread as of about 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that spread will be, I don't have my drum roll because I can't hold anything else. I've got two things. I got my clipboard here. I got my phone here. I can't hit the thing with my nose. So anyway, the spread would ultimately end up being 2.5. So that was all that for just saying 2.5, which is what I said originally. This is where you get your entertainment from, folks. Like I said, Texans, give me Houston on that one, and it was my best bet. Falcons hosting the Dolphins. Falcons changing quarterback, not because of performance, but because of injury. So it'll be Kirk Cousins under center for Atlanta. Drake London is on the fence. He may or may not play. The Dolphins, everybody and their brother knows that this is fired, so fired. It's just a matter of time. I still cannot believe that there wasn't a single firing after the last week of football, right? Week 7 produced colossal losses and not one single firing. Everybody from last week is still coaching this week. Even coordinators. Nobody got fired. It's fucking nuts. Okay, so I'm going to take the Falcons in the 7. It's a ton of points, but this is one of those. The Dolphins, who knows? This is going to be now like 8 chain runs for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Tua actually throws, and he's tall enough to see over his line in this game. That's what's going to happen only because I am the mush and I am the walrus cuckoo choo, and I bet on the Falcons. But that's what I'm doing. Falcons in the 7. Final 1 o'clock game, Eagles, Giants. Eagles at home, favored by 7.5. By the way, the Falcons was a trifecta. Everybody and their brother was in on the Falcons there on the 7 points. Eagles here, 7.5 point favorite. So we got, like I said, 7s. We went Bills 7.5, Bengals 6.5, Patriots 7, Falcons 7. Now Eagles 7.5 as well. Over under is 43.5. Sharps are going to be with the Giants. The tickets and the money are in on the Eagles. No AJ Brown for Philly. Look. I picked the Giants in their week, 6 victory, that Thursday night win over the Eagles. I bet them. I liked them. This is a lot different scenario for me. I don't know about the 7.5. I don't think, even though, they could have won they literally should have won last week in Denver, and they didn't. I find it's going to be tough for them to go in here to Philly and beat this Eagles team here a second time in 3 weeks, right? 3 or 4 weeks. And on top of that, I don't know if they're going to be able to stay with them here. I don't know why. I like Dart. I like him a lot. Only a couple games in, but I think he is the real deal. He's shown it. I don't think you can argue about that. I just don't know about the rest of his team, right? Like the line has been performing infinitely better since Andrew Thomas came back. The defensive line has been solid. The secondary has been dog shit. I just don't know how all of that pieces together here against an Eagles team that kind of found a little bit of offensive mojo last week. I don't know if that carries over. Obviously, A.J. Brown not there, but does that matter? The secondary for the Eagles still a little skeptical. I don't know. Give me the Eagles on this in the 7.5. It's a lot of points. I think the sharp in me is screaming to go with the Giants, but again, spreads don't matter. So I think the Eagles win this, and I think it's probably a pretty rough game for the Giants. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just what I think. 4 o'clock games, Buccaneers in New Orleans versus the Saints. 4.5 in favor of the road Bucks. 46.5 is the over-under. A pros Joe's game. We haven't had one of these in quite a while. The Sharps and the money pool in on the Saints, while the tickets are in on the Buccaneers. I wanted to go Saints here. A lot of people talked all week about how the Saints don't actually have any kind of home field advantage, because I think I actually said it as well. I think I said, Saints play better at home. And then I heard multiple people talk about how they don't. They literally don't play any better at home than they do on the road. I still thought 4.5 for a Buccaneers team that is really banged up. And, Vita Vea might not play. And, how do you go there? And then, the square in me was like, no, you pick Tampa Bay in this spot. And you get behind the 69% of the tickets and Baker Mayfield, and you just lose. And so that's what I did. Buccaneers and this 4.5. Colts, Titans, Colts by 14.5. Trifecta game. Everybody in on the Colts. Over under is 46.5. Give me the Colts, and that's all I'm going to talk about that game. Broncos hosting the Cowboys. Broncos obviously came back from the dead last week against the Giants. Miraculous third fourth quarter comeback victory. And this week they have to take on the Cowboys, who have this surging offense and no defense, and see what can become there. It is a trifecta game. Everybody in on the Cowboys, and big too. 83% of the tickets, 83% of the money. Again, I hate going with trifectas here, but I'm going with the Cowboys. I can't get behind Bo Nix. That game in Philadelphia, the game at home last week versus the Giants, they should have lost those games. The other team gave those wins to Denver. Denver should be 2 losses more, or 2 more in the loss column, 2 less in the win column, because that's how it works. It's fucking math. And didn't somehow. And Bo Nix is getting credit for this. I'm sorry. Anyway, here, give me the Cowboys here, and I actually put them in some flyer bets here for a money line win. So I'm taking Cowboys there. The big Sunday night football game is the Steelers taking on the Packers. It is the Aaron Rodgers game, the Rodgers love game, the apprentice and mentor game, whatever you want to put in there. Steelers coming off the rough loss on Thursday night to the Bengals are 3-point dogs here at home. 45.5 is the over-under. The Sharps are in on the Packers. Everybody else is in on the Steelers. Heaviest on the money pool, as 81% of the money is coming in on Pittsburgh. Another game that I had changed at one point, and let me check. I'm pretty sure that I had Green Bay. I did. I had Green Bay as my best bet of the week at one point. And then I took them out. I had them in my super contest picks, but I took them out because everybody and their brother talked me out of it. And now this morning, then I'm coming back from church and I'm listening to You Better You Bet on WFAN. Sports Radio 66, The Fan, WFAN. I don't even know they use that sounder anymore because it's 101.9, right? So, and I forgot all the 101.9 sounders aren't in my head. It's always The Fan, just drilled in decades and decades of listening to that fucking station. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, that's right. I was listening to You Better Your Bet, and then he starts talking about how he loves Green Bay in this game. And then I said, maybe I should have done Green Bay. Here's my thoughts. Here's my thoughts, and then here's my thought. Redundancy. Paramount here on the Broken Helmet. I am not a fan of Aaron Rodgers this year. Over his career, yeah, he's great. He's gotten this crazy touchdown interception. If you watch this guy play from week to week, minus last week, which was this crazy shootout, he's like check down Charlie. He sucks. He's not been good. He's not been good at all. And the defense isn't spectacular. But what happens here is that Green Bay, who by far is the better team and has the way higher ceiling, right? If these two teams got to their best football during the year and played together, neutral field, the Packers destroy the Steelers. They're just a better team. That's it. So by default, it's almost like an insta-bet and an insta-bet best bet. But the Packers have played so inconsistent last week. And I had Peltz on, and then I asked Peltz about Packers. He starts talking them all up. I end up going with the Packers. And, of course, the Packers go straight into the play. And I'm like, Peltz, I shouldn't have listened to you. They won, but they didn't cover. And I changed shit around. So here, I don't know what to do. I'm going with the Packers. You can't give me the Packers and the 3 points. I think I'm not going to bet it. If I do, and that's where this really impacts me, is that now I've taken the Packers out of bets, and hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. But at least for the picking stages, I am going to pick the Packers. And I'm actually going to use the Steelers in my wagers. That's how screwed up this has become, is that later on when we hit the wagers, I end up putting the Steelers in. But give me Packers and the 3. Chiefs Commanders, another game. Initially, it was 11.5. I picked Kansas City. I had Kansas City as my initial best bet in the beginning of the week. Then start hearing about, how screwed up the offensive line is now with everybody out, whether by injury or personal reasons. And just coming to grips with the fact that 11.5 is a lot for a Chiefs team that up until the past couple of weeks, I mean, granted, the Lions game, it made me a bunch of quiche. So I was happy about that. But they haven't really been a, blow you out of your, socks team. And I don't know, can I get behind them in 11.5 here? I did originally. And then, Commanders, yes, they don't have Jason Daniels. Marcus Mariota is awful, but he has been functional this year. And so do I want to give a team that has some talent and a functional quarterback, or has been functional at least this year, 11.5 points? Like 11.5 points. The Colts are playing the Titans. The Colts are only 14.5 point favorites. So you're telling me that the Colts are 3.5 points better than the Titans compared to the Chiefs versus the Commanders. Like, that's where you're putting this game. Those two games are 3 points apart. I can't see it. So end up giving me the Commanders in this one. Trifecta game, everybody in on the Chiefs. It's early yet, though, so those numbers will change as time goes on. 47.5 is the over-under. So, again, give me the Commanders and 11.5 points. So, with that, we will hit our wagers. And here's what we'll do. My best bet, like I said, is going to be Houston. And my survivor, again, another one that I have changed several times. For the most part, I was going with Cincinnati. I measured out the teams. I was looking at Buffalo, Cincinnati, New England, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. Atlanta's got a bunch of teams down the road that they can go with. Philly's got a game versus Vegas at home later on. New England's got the Jets at home, the Giants at home, Miami at home. Cincinnati has Arizona at home and Cleveland at home. Now, Arizona, I'm not completely sold on. Cleveland, I also think that Cincinnati could pull that one off. I really like him here against the Jets, but here's the thing, is that I think that recency bias is coming in and trying to get me to play gamesmanship here and take Cincinnati, because where else am I going to take Cincinnati? This is the spot to take them versus the Jets. I don't know. Listening to everybody all week long, it made me shake a little bit thinking, yeah, I'm going to take the Cincinnati. And then all of a sudden Fields is going to have this game against a terrible Cincinnati defense. And they're going to win one for the Gipper here and pull one off for for Aaron Glenn. Yeah, nobody's winning anything for Aaron Rodgers in New York. That was a point of conversation, though, this week also, is how bad we screwed up as the Jets getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. Would you have been better with Aaron Rodgers this year? Yes. Yes. Were you going to win anything with Aaron Rodgers? No. This team still sucks. So, just Aaron Rodgers is in a better place now. He's in Pittsburgh. Let them handle it. Let them handle him. And the Jets, just go for the number one pick. That's your mission. And to that point, they should lose this game. And I should stick with Cincinnati. I talked myself out of it. I did not want to get caught. And so I changed then to Buffalo. And that's where I'm going with my survivor for the week. I'm going to go Buffalo there on the road against Andy. Andy Dalton is not beating the Buffalo Bills. I mean, that would just be a shock. A shock. And so I didn't want to get too cute with it. I probably won't use Cincinnati now, which would be unfortunate. Maybe that Cleveland game, maybe that Arizona game. I doubt it. But, this is one of those I just want to get to the next week. I should go with Cincinnati. I'm not. I'm going to go with Buffalo. So that brings me to Super Contest picks. And again, these things have changed. I don't like any of them. I've taken ones out, put them back in. Here's the mess that it is. Buffalo, 7.5. Cincinnati, 6.5. Chicago, 2.5. Atlanta, 7. And Houston, 2.5. The Houston used to be Kansas City, took them out. Used to be Green Bay, I took them out. Then I made it Houston. Houston became my best bet. This is over the course of the week. Kansas City was my best bet. And Cincinnati was my best bet. Then Green Bay was my best bet. And then Houston was my best bet. And I might have flip-flopped the best bets there within those four a couple different times. And so now I'm at Houston. So again, Buffalo, 7.5. Cincinnati, 6.5. Chicago, 2.5. Atlanta, 7. Houston 2.5 are my super contest picks. Not great. Which brings us to the wagers. And here's the deal. There's probably one thing I like this week, and I could just dump all the money that I spend on all this other stuff on that one thing. And that would be a money line bet, Kansas City, Buffalo, Atlanta. Atlanta now with Kirk Cousins makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but Miami is just a disaster. Now, if you don't like any of those, there are other teams. You could go New England. I thought about taking Atlanta out, put New England in. Philadelphia. You could take Atlanta out, put Philadelphia in. All these 7-point teams. I'm basically treating it kind of like a tease, but I'm just doing money line, KC, Buffalo, Atlanta. KC's not losing at home. Not to Marcus Mariota. Buffalo is not losing to Andy Dalton. Atlanta, are they going to lose to this spiraling out of control Dolphins team? I would think not. Again, that's what's going to come back and bite me in the ass. So I'm going to put 417 on that money line parlay for 721 in return. Those three teams put together is minus 138 odds. I thought of it kind of as a low stress bet, talking about the Matt Kapline approach from last week, but it doesn't really get up to that minus 150. But those three teams should win, right? That's woulda, coulda, shoulda. So 417 for 721 there. And then here's what else I did. I took a field goal parlay. Houston minus 2.5. Atlanta minus 2.5. Buffalo minus 2.5. So Atlanta and Buffalo I actually brought down. Houston I kept where they were. 50 for 168 there. Then I tacked onto those three teams another 2 field goal winners. That would be at New England at minus 2.5 and at Philadelphia minus 2.5. So again, Houston, Atlanta, Buffalo, New England, Philadelphia, all 5 field goal win, 25 for 148 there. Then I did a teaser. I hate teasers. I did them for a couple of weeks. They bit me in the ass, and I put them away, and now here I'm back. Why? Because all of these spreads this week were 7, 7, 1, 7, 7, 4, 7. So I looked it up, and this is a little too similar to my money line, functionally speaking. So I don't know if I like it, but I looked and I said, okay, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Philly, and New England. Use them all with 6 points. And if all of those teams hit by the adjusted 6 points, so Buffalo minus 1.5, Cincinnati minus half, Atlanta minus 1, New England minus 1, Philly minus 1.5, 100 for 434. So 5 things need to happen. Don't like that. But, field goals way covers it. And so 100 for 434. Then give me a blowout special. Give me New England, Atlanta, Kansas City, all minus 6.5. So adjust those odds so that those 3 teams, New England, Atlanta, and Kansas City, are all minus 6.5. And then throw Houston and the minus 2.5 on top of it. So give me 25 for 210 there. Houston, obviously not a blowout, but I'm just saying, I'm talking about blowout where all these other teams are actually going to cover these 7 points. And then I've got 2 dog plays, right? Everybody loves dogs, right? And where that's my Francesa bit. I got it somewhere here. My drop machine here closed, but
we all like dogs, okay?
Exactly. So give me these 2. Houston minus 2.5. Dallas minus 2.5. $25 for 140 there.
We all like dogs, okay?
And then give me Dallas minus 2.5 and Pittsburgh minus 2.5. So those 2 adjusted both of those the opposite way and give me 25 for 171.
We all like dogs, okay?
And that leaves me with one more bet. This is going to be a prop bet. I am going to do a prop ladder here. So basically, if you've watched the Buccaneers, Tez Johnson has come into play in the past 3 weeks a little bit. He's got himself, one game was a big, huge bomb downfield. It's been like 45 yards, 50 yards, 45 yards. Past 3 weeks has been dialing up. Now you have no Mike Evans. Ibuka is injured. he got 9 targets last week. And if you watch his targets, it was like 3, 4, 9. So I brought up his ladder, and I started from plus odds, and which was 50 plus yards. And I went 50 plus yards up 5 spots. So I did 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. $20 per bet. So $100 in total to hit the over on each one of those. And that brings back 466 if he ends up getting 90 plus. So again, $100 spread out over $20 bets, 5 of them, each one of the Tez Johnson ladder, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Now, if I end up hitting the 50 and 60, so, one bomb for 40 yards and then 20 more yards over the rest of the game, those, if I hit the first 2 of the ladder, that covers the bet in total. That gives me 112 back. So I've covered it and I made $12. And then everything after 60 yards ends up being profit to the tune of, at a $20 bet, 84, 114, and then 156. So I'm hoping it's the Tez Johnson breakout game, or Baker's just got to throw the ball everywhere and Tez is the guy. 100-yard game out of what'll probably be the number 2 receiver is not bad. I mean, Sterling Shepard's there, but I mean, Tez Johnson has definitely seen an uptick in usage. And so not crazy to see a wide receiver in a Baker Mayfield, modern day Baker Mayfield offense, get a whole bunch of yards. So that's what I did. A 100 for 466 in return, or broken up into, whatever piece of the ladder I hit. And so that's everything I did. Now, I mentioned I considered doing all of this, and I put 767 down in total. If I just did the 767 for the Kansas City, Buffalo, Atlanta moneyline parlay, I would have gotten 1345 in return, which would have given me a profit of 578. So I put down 767 to get 578 in return. So, here, obviously, I'm limiting my risk because I'm diversifying the portfolio. But again, I've got Atlanta a lot of places. I got Buffalo a lot of places. I don't know. And I don't even know if, and I was trying to do the math here. It just gives me some other things to do. It gives me those 2 dog bets. It gives me this Tez Johnson bet. But I don't know ultimately what would have been the better route to go. Like if I hit the money line and I hit the teaser, then I end up, that's 3 and 1 and another 3 here. So that's 600. So if I hit those 2, I make more than all of the money for the week put behind the money line parlay bet. And then anything else along the line hits, increases it. I don't know which is the better way here. I feel again like I'm being too much of a fucking square by the way that I'm doing it. Not by the way I'm doing it here. I think if I was a sharp, you just pick what you like. And for me, it would be that moneyline parlay and, let it all ride. I probably wouldn't put 767. I was trying to do that to get the, different monies on the bankroll. But that probably would be the way to go. But I'm not a sharp, I'm a square. And so I put it all along these different bets. So starting portfolio was 717 after winning a couple $100 last week. And I'm down 13% on the season. So we'll see what happens here. But the 767 brings me down to 6,350 on the bankroll. So hopefully we'll get, we'll see a little bit of a return on that. Hopefully they all come in. And then that would be a phenomenal week. But I don't know. So that's it for the Broken Helmet for this week. I will be back next week with at least this show, unless I can get another show of some kind in. Last week, I obviously brought another show to light to say I'm not watching the Giants anymore, so I don't know what I'm going to do at 1 o'clock. But I guess I'm going to watch the Jets. No, I'm not going to watch any of that. Red Zone? Maybe the Red Zone. But regardless, I will be back to talk more football, more sports, or just bore you to tears. Audi 5000.